Matt Breen has embarked on an adventure through the Central American country of Costa Rica. So for the next week, he's part of a group of 20 Siouxlanders traveling through tropical Costa Rica. And each night, Matt will file a story from an exotic corner of that country. Tonight, we join Matt in the Central Valley, where coffee is king.
Hola from Hacienda Doca. This is a coffee plantation in Costa Rica. We're on the slopes of the Poas volcano. We're about 40 minutes northwest of the capital city of San Jose. This is one of the original coffee plantations in the country of Costa Rica, and our group got a chance to tour it and see everything from the planting of the seeds to the harvesting of the berries to the roasting of those berries, and then of course turning it into the coffee that folks enjoy around the world every single day. In fact, behind me, that building dates back to 1921, and some of the equipment that's inside still exists today and still continues in that coffee making process. Now, coffee was the chief export of Costa Rica until the early 1990s, but it wasn't always that way. In fact, it was Pope Clement VIII who originally blessed coffee, and then it was consumed around the world. Before that, though, Christians considered coffee to be Satan's brew. Not so much anymore. 2 billion cups of coffee are drank around the world today. Lots to do and see here in the country of Costa Rica over the next week or so with our group of 20 or so Siouxlanders. We'll continue to file stories every single day. At the Hacienda Doca in Costa Rica, Matt Breen, KTIV News 4.